Coming off the heels of Cisco Live EMEA, which you, of course, Tom, were at, we get a big announcement that Cisco and NVIDIA are partnering up in the networking space. Yesterday's announcement will create a unified architecture that enables NVIDIA's Spectrum-X networking with Cisco devices. NVIDIA will be providing Bluefield-3 SuperNICs to run alongside Cisco Silicon One chips. These new switches will be running Cisco IOS on top of NVIDIA hardware. Cisco is, to date, the only partner working directly with NVIDIA on this technology. Tom, what's the networking nerd's take on this innovation?
I think it's very interesting that NVIDIA finally partnered up with somebody to do this. I wondered if this was going to be the case. In fact, I specifically pulled one of the Cisco product managers aside during Tech Field Day Extra when the cameras weren't rolling, and I said, so your initial design for these switches has a DPU from AMD Pensando on it. And he goes, yeah. I said, could I run other DPUs on these switches with the same software from another company? He kind of looked around and he goes, well, I mean, I guess you could. This is what we're supporting right now. Man, if I'd only waited a week. Here's my take on this. If you go out and you go to the Tech Field Day website and click on the link for Cisco Live EMEA, on day one, you can actually see Cisco UCS running an 8 core or an 8 count H100 server, right? Like something ridiculous, like 12.5 kilowatts of power that this thing is budgeted to pull. But you still have to worry about the networking that runs on the back end of it. And this is a step in that direction, right? We know that Cisco is working with the Ultra Ethernet Consortium to create a standard version of Ethernet fabrics to deliver packets to these servers over what they call Network 2, which would be not the GPU interconnects, but the front side of it. But a lot of companies are going with Spectrum-X and with Bluefield to do this. And when you look at what NVIDIA is building into Spectrum-X that requires Bluefield to do this, now you've run into a problem, right? It's effectively kind of locked in. So how do you get access to that market if you're not NVIDIA? Well, you have to figure out how to play nicely. But the catch is that when you look at the market, most of the networking equipment that runs out there, by and large, runs on Cisco, right? And Cisco IOS, say what you will about it, but it is kind of an industry standard command line at this point. And that is a comfortability level that most people would argue for, right? If I'm going to deploy new switches, I'd rather deploy them on an operating system that I understand that integrates with all of my other devices that I can manage the way that I've always managed it. And I think this is kind of a blending of that technology. Of course, the hardware underneath is still Spectrum-X. It's still running SuperNICs, but it is running Cisco IOS on top of it to manage the whole thing. This gives Cisco a way to sell a network that goes along with those AI servers. It's not piecemealing this out anymore. And while Cisco is currently the only partner that they have, I would expect that will open up later on as more companies kind of put forth their ideas on what they want to do. But of course, if you really want to kind of blend these together, you go to the market leader to do that. And everyone knows that that's Cisco right now. So I expect to see more about this coming out very soon. I expect to see some benchmarks. And quite honestly, this should light a fire under the Ultra Ethernet Consortium to come up with their idea to combat what Spectrum-X is purporting to do. And we can only kind of wait and see what the fallout's going to be all across the board.